We deserve each other, me and Bach.
In Wicked, everyone remembers Elphaba, but almost nobody understands how Nessarose, her own sister, became the Wicked Witch of the East, not because she was evil, but because her entire life slowly pushed her into becoming a villain. Today, we're diving into why Nessarose became wicked, and trust me, it's not the reason you think. The real reason is, well, it's going to throw everything you thought about her completely upside down, but we'll get to that soon.
Don't help me. She'll be fine.
To understand why Nessarose became wicked, we need to start long before she was even born. With her parents, Melena Throp and Frex. Melena and Frex looked like the perfect couple in public, but behind the scenes, their marriage was already breaking apart. And this is where the story gets messy, because according to both the Wicked musical and the movie, Melena cheated on Frex with a mysterious stranger, a man who gave her a strange green elixir to drink. She didn't know what it was, and she definitely didn't know what effect it would have on her child. But that drink is the reason Elphaba was born green, and the moment Frex saw his daughter's skin, he only looked at her with resentment.
Take it away. Take it away!
And this is important later because Elphaba grows up believing she was the mistake and the child her father never wanted. But Frex was terrified that something like that would happen again. So when Melena got pregnant the second time, Frex forced her to take milk flowers, the substance meant to calm the baby and prevent another disaster. But milk flowers were dangerous and they caused more damage than the thing they were trying to prevent. Because those milk flowers made Melena go into premature labor. Nessarose was born too early, Melena died during childbirth, and Nessa was left physically disabled. The reason she grows up needing a wheelchair in the movie and the musical. Frex never recovered from losing his wife, and instead of blaming himself, he blamed Elphaba even more than before, and he poured every ounce of love and protection he had left into Nessarose.
I treasure any chance to see my dear daughter.
It might sound sweet, but over time, that overprotection shaped Nessa into someone who felt chosen, special, and almost entitled, while Elphaba felt like a monster in her own home. And in the original 1995 novel by Gregory Maguire, the story is way darker. The musical actually softens Nessarose's condition, because in the book, she doesn't just use a wheelchair. Nessarose has no arms at all. She's born without them, completely dependent on her father and sister. And the emotional tone of her character is far heavier and more tragic. The Broadway musical simplified her disability into a wheelchair, and the movie kept that version too. But the book version explains even more why she grows up feeling helpless, isolated, and desperate for control. And that desperation for control eventually turns Nessarose into someone the world would call wicked. But that transformation doesn't happen yet, it actually begins somewhere else. And we'll get to that in a moment. At the end of the first Wicked movie, everything changes. Elphaba refuses to work for the wizard, she exposes him and becomes the most threatening person in all of Oz. Madame Morrible wastes no time, she gets on the public announcement system and labels Elphaba as a wicked witch.
This distortion, this repulsion, this wicked witch.
But that announcement doesn't just change Elphaba's life, it destroys Nessarose's. Because when word reaches their father Frex that his oldest daughter has been declared wicked, he has a heart attack and dies. His death leaves one huge problem. The position of governor of Munchkinland is now empty, and guess who takes the throne? Nessarose. This is where Act 2 of the musical begins. And this is where Wicked for Good picks up its tone, because when Nessa becomes governor, she does not rule with love, she rules with control. She makes Bach her personal servant, and she turns the Munchkins into what are basically political prisoners. She claims it's for their safety, but everyone knows it's fear of being powerless again, fear of losing everything the way she's already lost her mother, her childhood, and now her father. But to understand why she rules this way, we have to go back to something more personal, the love triangle. When Nessa first meets Bach at Shiz, she falls for him instantly. He's kind to her, he treats her normally, and he doesn't pity her. But Bach doesn't love her. Bach is in love with Glinda, and Glinda, trying to get Bach off her case, pushes him to take Nessa to the Ozdas ballroom. She basically sets them up just to get rid of him.
That perfectly adorable Munchkin boy just asked me out. He said he was too shy to ask me at first, but then Glinda emboldened him.
Wait, Glinda?
Nessa takes this act of kindness as love. For the first time in her life, she feels chosen, wanted, and important. She becomes obsessed with that feeling and obsessed with Bach. She doesn't want him out of her sight. She doesn't want to lose the only person who's ever made her feel like she wasn't a burden. Her obsession becomes paranoia, and that paranoia becomes control. Then comes the moment that changes everything, the slippers. In the film, they're silver, a nod to the original Wizard of Oz novel and a way to dodge copyright problems. In the story, these slippers belong to Milena, and Frex gave them to Nessa as a reminder of the mother she never knew. When Elphaba returns home as a fugitive, she asks Nessa for help, but Nessa refuses. She's angry at Elphaba, and she asks a question she's been holding onto her whole life. Why haven't you ever used your magic to help me walk? And that's when Elphaba tries to fix that. She casts a spell on the slippers so Nessa can finally stand on her own. Now, in the stage musical, the spell lets her walk, but for Wicked for Good, they changed this plot because making a disabled character walk as a fix is really bad disability representation. So in the movie, Nessa is able to fly instead. Still a magical transformation, but not erasing her disability. But the effect is the same. Bach sees Nessa moving freely for the first time in her life, and he feels relieved because now she doesn't need him anymore. And that means he's finally free to go back to Glinda, the girl he's always loved. The moment Nessa realizes this, something snaps. Her fear becomes Ray, and she runs to the Grimoire and tries to cast a spell that will make Bach never leave her. But Nessa isn't Elphaba. She doesn't have the kind of power Elphaba does, and the spell goes horribly wrong. Instead of binding Bach to her, she shrinks his heart, he starts dying in front of her, and Elphaba rushes in and has no choice. She performs a second spell to save him, but the only way to keep him alive is to turn him into something else, and that's how Bach became the Tin Man.
What have you done to me?
But instead of taking responsibility for her mistake, Nessa does something truly cruel. She blames Elphaba, exiles her, and she cements the belief that her sister is evil, that Elphaba ruins everything. In that moment, Nessarose crosses the line, not because she wanted to be wicked, but because she couldn't face the truth about who she was becoming, and this is the moment, right here, that begins her final downfall. After the Bach incident, everyone in Munchkinland hears the story, but of course they don't know the truth. They don't know she was the one who cast the spell that nearly killed him. They don't know Elphaba only stepped in to save his life. All they see is a governor who's becoming harsher, angrier, and more unpredictable by the day, and this is where Nessarose begins to lose the people she's supposed to protect. The Munchkins start whispering behind her back, calling her controlling, cruel, and wicked. Nessarose isn't wicked because she wants to be. She's wicked because the world only sees the damage she leaves behind, not the loneliness that caused it. But Nessa's story doesn't end with rulership. It ends with the moment everyone already knows. The moment that cements her place in pop culture history, her death. Because in The Wizard of Oz, Nessarose, the Wicked Witch of the East, dies when Dorothy's house lands on her. Her body gets crushed, the ruby slippers magically teleport onto Dorothy's feet, and the story moves on like her entire life meant nothing. But in This Is Interesting, we don't actually know yet if the Wicked movies will follow that plot, because if they change the original Elphaba makes her walk again storyline to avoid harmful disability representation, they might also change the way Nessa dies.
The Munchkins call me because a new witch has just dropped a house on the Wicked Witch of the East. And there's the house, and here you are, and that's all that's left of the Wicked Witch of the East.